Hey! Okay, so Otz did a video some time ago talking about the staleness and overall lack of inspiration for iridescent add-ons in DBD. So, I absolutely love making concepts. It's like, the main thing I do when I'm, just in my free time, because I am very passionate for DBD. So, I use this as an opportunity to rework some iridescent add-ons for killers. Now, this is not covering every killer. In fact, the killers I have for you today are the ones I, wrote down. I have some that are still in my head that I haven't fully written down, but the ones that I am covering today are Trapper, Michael, Hillbilly, and one for Huntress that I think is pretty interesting. You can skip around the chapters if you only want to see how a particular add-on is reworked, or if you just want to see the killer's add-ons themselves. Okay, starting with the poster boy himself. He actually has some pretty strong add-ons. If you remember, I did actually advocate for Coil to be base kit. I still hold that opinion, and I still think this add-on is completely fine. It's the other one that I want to talk about. The Honing Stone randomly opens traps every 30 seconds. I've always thought this is a strange effect. Perhaps, dated at this point? Considering making a powerful add-on rely on luck is kind of strange. I feel like you could make this lower rarity, so I wanted this to be a little bit stronger for an iridescent. So I made it so that the Honing Stone would now open a trap that was disabled after 20 seconds, but only once per trap. So there you go. Doesn't rely on luck anymore. And it actually adds more risk to disabling his traps, because now if you disable it, it's going to come right back soon, like 20 seconds, and it's right back. So that way, survivors either have to wait around and waste 20 seconds to wait for the trap to reopen, or to remember to come back and disable that trap. So this actually adds a lot more time investment to disabling his traps, rather than just disabling those as you go and just wasting a lot of time for the trapper but not for the survivors. So I think that this would help a lot in his the funny word pressure. And I think making survivors having to come back later to disable again is just great. And not to mention, it would also help with disabled traps and chase. If it gets disabled mid-chase, say on a window or a pallet by another survivor, they would have to either stick around in this chase, or they would have to just let them tank the trap. So, I think overall this add-on would be a lot more interesting than just randomly opening a trap. Of course, I did also add the downside, of whip only being once per trap, because, you don't want this to keep happening. For example, like a basement trapper. So I made that if you did want to reset that, you would have to actually physically pick up the trap, put it back down. So, I didn't want basement trapper scenarios to happen where you literally wasted a full minute and a half trying to get in there, and then it just keep going. It was just a strong loop that no one could ever get out of. Okay, now it's time for everyone's favorite. It's Big Mike. Michael Myers. Now, Big Mike is perhaps the most controversial when it comes to iridescent add-ons. So I got some ideas to change them that might be equally as controversial. I don't know. Who cares? I think Michael's iridescence should be strong in a way, but I think they're too strong right now. So, first off, the Tombstone. The one that isn't even good unless you run it with infinite tier 3. The Tombstone piece is better. And I'll be covering that in a different video where I'm reworking, lower tier add-ons and, meme add-ons and stuff. But I wanted to make it good on its own. Because, Tombstone right now is just... it just doesn't do anything on its own. It's very useless. Why would you use it over Tombstone piece? Because it makes you slower. So, I can't really give any exact numbers because I don't really know the speeds. I would just want this add-on to still be able to kill survivors, which is, that is a little rough, I know. But I think making it so that you drain stock from others very, very, very slowly, and when you fully drain a person of stock and are in tier 3, you could just kill them. You could just straight up kill them when they're fully ran out of stock. This would obviously make, Michael a little slower like current Tombstone, so you couldn't just juice up. And the reason I add the tier 3 requirement, which sounds a little bit uh, out like just random, is because I wanted it to make the break point of like tier 3. I wanted like, I don't, of course I again said I didn't know the numbers, but I want to make it so where you couldn't just stock one survivor to get to tier 3 like fully. You would have to stock multiple. So that way you would, you couldn't just sit on one survivor the whole game and then just kill them and then there you go, you just got a free win. You could pretty much do something similar to that, but it would still require you to be in tier 3. And your tier 3 would still be limited time, but killing somebody would not take away a big part of the duration. It would just be a shorter tier 3 overall. Which I don't know the exact values of tier 3 timing. That's probably something that's a little easier to find out. However, I think making that shorter as well as, requiring to be drained of stock is a lot more fair way of just straight up killing people in the trial. But yeah. Also, I wanted to add, just because, stealth could counter this a lot. Whenever you pop tier 3 during the match, you should be able to see anyone that is drained of stock. You'll see their aura, so you'll actually be able to find them. But yeah, I do have the graphic on screen as well, and that's what I would do for Tombstone. Very controversial add-on itself. Okay, from controversial to controversial. We're talking about Fragrant Tuft of Hair. No more Infinite Tier 3. I have to say that right away. But I think changing it instead to shift the playstyle of Michael would be pretty cool. So I got this idea that you could shift to play Cannon Michael, essentially, where now your stock would build from farther away, like faster, and slower when you're closer. So you actually would benefit from stalking from far away instead of right up in their face like how Michael normally does. So when you pop tier 3 with this ability, you would gain haste. If you pop tier 3 on someone who's far away, it would give you a nice, Editing Austin here again, talking about this Fragrant Tuft of Hair. I actually changed my idea on this add-on. The current one is on screen, so I ramble on a little bit here. But my full idea is I'm still keeping the inverted distances, but instead of the the haste when you stalk an opponent and enter tier 3 from farther away, I would instead make it where you gain evil at an increased rate when you're standing still and a lower rate when you are moving. So yeah, there you go. Quick one. So the change to Eerie Hatchet, just I say instead of just making it insta down, it's very shattering, right? To just get, especially if it's like at the start of a trial, you just run up to the Huntress, you don't know she has it, boom, insta down. And it makes it so, of course, the Huntress can't make many mistakes, but the survivors can't either. So I just want to change it to something that still rewards good players, but something that's a little bit less overpowered. So you can only have 3 hatchets, or, just like Eerie Hatchet, nurse it down to 1. You could only have 3, but anytime you hit a player with a hatchet, you gain a hatchet. And now it's an add-on that rewards accuracy with not having to waste time reloading, and it's just way healthier than just insta-down hatchets. So it would essentially just be like, one in the chamber, Huntress. So I think that would reward a lot of skill instead of, just rewarding hitting 1 hatchet and getting a free down. Moving on to our next character, we have Hillbilly, whose add-ons focus on undetectable for some odd reason. So I decided I just want to give a better reason to run these add-ons, especially for Billies who are actually good at Billy. I'm not one of them. I play Pig, for Christ's sake. You think I'm good at the game? No, sir. No, sir. Okay. First up on the chopping block is Iridescent Muffler. And its current effect is to silence your chainsaw when people are outside your terror radius. Why? Let's buff them curved billies. Let's make the curved billies get a little bit of a buff. Okay, so now the Iridescent Muffler would buff feathering your chainsaw by bypassing overheat if there is a survivor within 16 meters of you. So instead of overheating like it normally would, it would just keep it at 99%, meaning as long as you don't break the distance of 16 meters, it would never overheat. But once you break that distance, of 60 meters, it will overheat instantly. And you would use, of course, get hit with the slowdown of the overheat. And it's just something that's high risk, high reward, right? Like if you know you can stay near the survivor and hit curves on loops, then you know that you can feather your chainsaw and not have to worry about overheat. But the second they get too much distance or you miss a couple saws, you would get punished for it and you would just get hit with the overheat. So I think it's something that could be really cool to buff billies who actually know how to curve. Not me, of course. But yeah, I think that's a cool idea. I don't know. I feel like it might be too much. It might be too little. I don't know. I'm just one guy. You're getting the perspective of one guy's ideas. Of course, that's why there's comments. Next up, we have Iridescent Brick. And this add-on's actually works a lot more than you would think. Like, especially a lot more than the Iridescent Muffler. When you don't have a tear radius, people just like assume that your chainsaw is far away. So the undetectable actually does kind of help, but I feel like it doesn't help enough. I mean, yeah, you can keep this add-on the same if you want, but I wanted to make an easy switch to just making the undetectable instead a 5% haste. So that way, after 2 seconds, you get a 5% haste. Hey, this is Editing Austin here. I realized that 5% haste doesn't really do anything, considering when you're in chainsaw sprint, you are moving at 230%. So I chose to instead change it to 10%. Thank you and have a nice day. On top of this already high speed, but I would make it gain, 25% more overheat. So you couldn't go for very, very long, but you would go a lot faster. So I think that would be a good idea because that could make him a lot scarier and a lot quicker on cross maps. So I think that's a lot more interesting and and it would cause a lot more cool moments to happen than undetectable. And it actually might, I don't know if the speed would, but it might allow for some really cool like movement text that you could do around stuff. I mean, I don't know, because your turn rate's still limited at that point, but I don't know. I'd like to see what haste does when you have your chainsaw sprint. I don't know. I just think it would be cool to see. And I think giving Billy some good add-ons I think he deserves it. I mean, like, Billy is an OP, right? Like, no one's complaining about Billy. So I think giving him an add-on to get some faster movement with his chainsaw, like when we have characters like, Blight and Nurse, like give him a little bit more movement. I mean, and he has a high skill ceiling, so I think both these add-ons just kind of like reward playing Billy and getting better at Billy. So I think that's a lot better than what we have now, because the undetectable set seems just very strange. But yeah, that's it. That's my first set of ideas. I do have some that are in the works, some that are like not fully finished, and I do have some that are finished, but I don't really have enough for a video yet. But I will make a part 2 of this concept for sure. I really like reworking these add-ons because there's so much cooler things that they could do, and I just feel like a lot of the time it's just undetectable, exposed. So I feel like I just want to make add-ons that have unique effects and like connect to the killers more. So look out for part 2 of this. And I mean, hey, I'll see y'all in the next one.